this section, we're going to look at quadratic functions. And quadratic functions are going to be equations that have x squared as their highest exponent. They have to have x squared. They might also have x. They might also have a plane number, but nothing higher than x squared, and you have to have at least that x squared in it as well. We can see here, this is our what we call like our standard form. A, B, and C are numbers. A is always the number in front of x squared. B is always the number in front of x, and C is always the number without a variable. It doesn't matter which one comes first, second, or third. A goes with the squared, B goes with the plain x, and C doesn't have a variable. All right, so first we're going to look at some business applications to get started with this one, and then we'll go backwards a little bit and look at some non-business stuff. So in this first business application, I've given us some quadratic functions here, sorry. So I've given us our supply, and I know it's quadratic because it's got that squared in it, and then our demand. Be very careful with these. They both have P's and Q's in them, so it's really really easy to get them mixed up. Make sure you know which one goes with supply and which one goes with demand. Because in A, we're asking for the supplied price of 15, and P is going to be the price. So I'm going to put P, 15 in for P, into the supplied equation. And I'm going to be solving for Q. Now, a couple different ways we can do this. We need to get rid of that 1/4. You can divide both sides by 1/4. A lot of people like to multiply by the reciprocal when we flip the fraction. Be careful. This one wouldn't matter too much. You could just write a 4 right there. But we can get to some where it might be like a 3/4 there. And when you flipped it, you would have to do 4/3. So it is important to use both the numerator and denominator. This one just happens to be a little bit easier. So some people sometimes take some shortcuts that we shouldn't. Now to get rid of that squared, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Before I do that, let me just rewrite it. To get rid of a square, we take a square root, so those cancel out. And I'm left with Q equals the square root of 60. I'm going to type that in my calculator, and it's always going to give me a crazy decimal here, and we're just going to round to whatever our nearest whole unit is. So in this case it would be 8, and I think we're doing books. We've got one more of these down below. If you want to give this one a shot, you can. It is 2 steps to solve. So if you don't think you can do it, that's fine. We'll just keep going. But if you do want to give it a shot, go ahead and hit pause. This one's for the demand. So I'm going to plug 15 in for P in the demand. My first step is going to be just like if it was our plain X. Just coming over here to the side. If we had an equation like this, our first step would be to subtract 20. Same thing here. Just because it's Q's and it's squared doesn't mean anything different. We're going to move that 20 first, then get rid of the number that's in front of the variable. So you can think about that Q just being an X. Sometimes that makes it a little bit easier for people to think about how to solve. So my first step is going to be to subtract that 20 over. So negative 5 is equal to negative 1/4 Q squared. I need to get rid of that negative 1/4, so I'm going to multiply by negative 4 over 1. You also can divide by negative 1/4 if you would rather do that. I'm going to get 20 is equal to Q squared. To get rid of a square, we take a square root. So I get Q is equal to the square root of 20. I'm going to type that in my calculator. That gives me 4.47. So I'm going to say 4 books.